On October 4, 2025, in Chicago's Brighton Park neighborhood, U.S. Border Patrol agents shot a woman during a confrontation involving federal and civilian vehicles. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, account states that agents conducting a routine patrol were boxed in and rammed by a convoy of up to 10 civilian cars, forcing the agents to exit their vehicle. DHS officials claimed the driver of one of the ramming vehicles, Marimar Martinez, a 40-year-old U.S. citizen, was armed with a semi-automatic weapon and had a history of online threats against agents. In response, agents fired defensive shots, striking Martinez. Martinez drove herself to a nearby hospital, where she was treated, released, and subsequently taken into federal custody by the FBI. Both Martinez and a second individual, Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz, face federal charges for forcibly assaulting, impeding, and interfering with a federal law enforcement officer. This event occurred amid a period of intense, large-scale immigration enforcement operations in the Chicago area, which had previously prompted significant community protests and clashes between federal agents and residents, including the use of chemical irritants and the deployment of specialized tactical teams. Local community accounts disputed the federal narrative, alleging that the Border Patrol agents may have initiated the collision during an enforcement action, leading to a chaotic scene where residents confronted the federal presence. The incident immediately escalated tensions, drawing large crowds of protesters and prompting a political conflict between federal authorities and the state's governor regarding jurisdiction and the deployment of the National Guard. Analysis: reasons and consequences. Underlying reasons for the escalation. The shooting is a symptom of a highly volatile environment created by overlapping factors. 1. Militarized immigration enforcement. The deployment of federal law enforcement, including Border Patrol, CBP agents, to conduct immigration operations far from the U.S. border, creates an inherently confrontational atmosphere. When these operations are perceived as aggressive or non-transparent, using unmarked vehicles or military-style tactics, it provokes strong resistance from community organizers and residents. 2. Activist strategy and counter-surveillance. The local community, particularly groups like the Southwest Side Rapid Response Team, actively monitor and attempt to disrupt ICE operations, often using vehicles to block or impede federal movement. While DHS frames the ramming as a deliberate armed ambush by domestic terrorists, community organizations view these actions as necessary civil resistance against what they consider unwarranted raids and detentions. 3. Breakdown of federal-local coordination. The explicit public tension between DHS and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, coupled with the Chicago Police Department's CPD statement distancing itself from the federal investigation, highlights a failure of jurisdictional cooperation. This vacuum of local support forces federal agents to operate in perceived isolation, potentially contributing to a more aggressive reliance on force when threatened. 4. Conflicting narratives and trust deficit. DHS's initial statements contained factual errors, e.g., incorrect location, conflicting accounts of how Martinez reached the hospital, and relied on the unverified claim of Martinez possessing an armed semi-automatic weapon, a charge not included in the initial federal complaint. This lack of clarity and transparency erodes public trust, making it difficult to ascertain the exact sequence of events and fueling the belief that federal agents are operating outside acceptable bounds of accountability. Immediate consequences. The immediate aftermath brought severe consequences on multiple fronts. 5. Legal and personal impact. Martinez and Ruiz face serious federal felony charges, which carry significant penalties. The incident resulted in Martinez being shot and injured, becoming a visible symbol of the community's clash with federal authority. 6. Heightened political conflict. The incident immediately spurred political action, including the federal authorization for National Guard deployment against the governor's wishes. This escalated the situation from a local policing issue to a national debate on states' rights versus federal enforcement authority. 7. Intensified protest and clashes. The shooting acted as a catalyst for immediate and forceful protests at the scene, leading to confrontations where agents used crowd control measures like pepper balls and tear gas, further radicalizing the local opposition. 8. Scrutiny on use of force. The federal charging complaint indicated that the agent fired 5 shots at Martinez while she was in the car, and only 1 body camera was reportedly on. This detail guarantees a deep investigation into whether the use of lethal force was proportional or necessary, particularly in a confined urban environment. Prediction and solutions. Predictions for the near future. 9. High-profile trial. The federal prosecution of Martinez and Ruiz will become a landmark case centered on the legal definition of assaulting a federal officer in the context of political protest and civil disobedience. Defense attorneys will leverage the conflicting DHS accounts and the lack of clarity regarding the armed claim. Number 10. Continued militarized presence. Given the current political climate, federal immigration enforcement operations and the increased deployment of tactical personnel will likely continue in Chicago, maintaining the risk of future violent confrontations. 11. Civil litigation. Regardless of the criminal outcome, Martinez is highly likely to file a civil lawsuit against the federal agents involved, focusing on excessive force and further scrutinizing the agent's conduct and training. Potential solutions for de-escalation. To mitigate future violence and restore a measure of stability and trust, several solutions are necessary. 12. Mandatory transparency. Federal authorities must immediately release all available body camera footage and internal reports to provide a clear, undisputed timeline of events. Furthermore, a nonpartisan, independent review board, not solely FBI or DHS, should lead the investigation into the use of lethal force. 13. De-escalation training and policy review. Federal agents operating in densely populated civilian areas must undergo specialized de-escalation and crowd management training. Use of force protocols should be immediately reviewed to prioritize non-lethal means, reserving firearms only when an imminent threat to life can be clearly established, especially when vehicles are used as instruments of blockade rather than lethal weapons. 14. Defined rules of engagement. The federal government should work with local authorities to establish clear, mutually agreed upon rules of engagement for enforcement operations, ensuring that the local police are notified and that operations do not unduly endanger the public safety of the community. 15. Policy shift. Ultimately, reducing tensions requires a policy decision to reduce the aggressive deployment of federal tactical units for routine immigration enforcement in non-border cities, shifting focus back to high-priority targets and maintaining an enforcement posture that respects the civil rights of residents.